All right, well, good morning. So my name is Mia Buch, and I am the museum educator at the Des Moines Art Center. And this morning I have a guest to look at some artwork with on our viewing Art with Essential Workers program. So I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey, my name's Dave Marin von Ebers. I'm a bartender and owner at the Bartender's Handshake on Ingersoll. And we took a week off after the shutdown right around St. Patrick's Day, and then we kind of jumped into carry out food and drinks and have been doing that all along. And we actually just we opened a temporary patio behind our space. So we finally started welcoming guests back in as safe a way as possible. So.
Awesome. Did you have a patio before, or is this you
No,
adapting?
this is adapting. Yeah, there have been a bunch of silver linings. That being able to sell carry out cocktails was huge, and that's a big silver lining. And that's now permanent in Iowa, which is kind of a cool thing that we can play with. But yeah, we had a lot behind the building that was just for parking. The barber shop next door and myself had access to it, and the barbers were nice enough to relinquish their spot, and the landlords in the city made way for us to set up this little patio, which I think turned out pretty cool. We painted the parking lot green so it kind of looks like AstroTurf, and we scoured Facebook Marketplace, so we have a lot of vintage yardware and patio furniture. So
I love that you had fun with it. You know what I mean? Like really,
yeah,
like it's adapting and like finding new ways to serve our community. And it's like, all right, we're gonna make this cool. So thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was weird doing carry out drinks because a big part of what we do is the atmosphere and the camaraderie and people getting together. So it was cool to see the community support us and pick up to-go drinks as sort of a way to find normalcy at home. But that really wasn't, I mean, it started getting old, honestly. You miss seeing the people. And so this was a way to bring people back in, and I didn't want to just, slap some chairs on a concrete parking lot. So
Right.
we had some fun. We made it, I think, look pretty good and feel comfortable.
Cool.
So it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. All right. So thank you so much for agreeing to look at some art with me.
Yeah,
Uh, we chatted just a little bit asking you what kind of things you found interesting in art. And I think you used this comparison that you're like those people who know what they like when it comes to like, what kind of wine do you like? Well, I know what I
right,
like, but it's hard for me to describe it.
right.
And I think a lot of art viewers feel like that. I mean, we walk through gallery spaces and it's like, you don't know what's going to pull you ever.
Hmm.
And you can,
Right,
like, especially with a space like the Des Moines Art Center, you can go back many times and see something you've never noticed before because you might be at a different period in your life, or you maybe
right.
like recently learned about an artist. And so art is always grabbing us at different times for different things. And I think it's important to acknowledge that.
Yeah, definitely. And I
Yeah.
think that's such a cool thing about the art center having the permanent collection that you do, is being able to revisit things. I mean, I remember going in elementary school field trips, and now it's so much longer. I'm seeing some of the same art, but definitely seeing it in a different light and appreciating it from a different angle.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a really special opportunity that we do have. So I pulled out some pieces based on some things I got was from you was that you don't like things that are too easy or like a landscape or things that are just aesthetically
Right.
pretty.
And
So I
not that
got
I
some
don't
things that
like, but you
I,
just kind of, they blend together. You kind of,
I'm the same way. Like I can only
yeah,
look at so many landscapes,
yeah.
unless they're painted interesting. But whatever. Uh, and so I found some things that I would classify as kind of moody and maybe a little tension. And then you also said that you like big abstract pieces. So I found a piece in our collection that I've never seen on display that I'm excited to show you.
Cool.
Okay.
I'm excited too.
All right. So initial response to this piece. What are you thinking?
Makes me think of winter. I know
Yeah.
there's no snow technically or anything, but it looks like he's warm, and just that contrast of dark and light. It kind of feels like a snowy night walking alone. I kind of love that feeling when you're alone in a city on a like snowy night. That's what it makes me feel.
Yeah, I think you're right though. It is that contrast, and that black is like so cool
Hmm.
that it feels chilly. And when you mentioned walking alone, you highlighted the fact to me that he's walking in the middle of the street.
Hmm.
So that's something you only do if there's literally no one else around. And whenever I've found myself doing that, it feels very surreal, like a movie set. Like
Yeah,
I can just walk in the middle of the street.
I really like that one. It's probably a corner bar there. Maybe that's
Yeah.
just me
No,
always looking for the bar. I love the patterns and like,
the line work.
yeah, the line work and
Mm-hmm.
adding some complexity to a really, it feels simple, but there's a lot going on too at the same time.
Right. And I think from this angle, it really simplifies things too. Like, we can assume that that might be a corner bar, but really, like, based on this angle, we can see so little.
Hmm.
So this artist could have chosen a different perspective, and then we could see like everything in the shop windows. Um, we
Right,
could see all the details in the sidewalk, but this, like, from this high up, we really see the shadows and we really see this figure and like the starkness of the street.
right. And that main light source, whatever
Yeah.
it is, a street lamp, I'm assuming. Or,
Yeah, it's cool because it feels like he's walking towards that, or the figures. I mean, I guess we don't know the figure's gender either, but they're walking towards this bright
hmm.
light. And then we've got this like harsh shadow that just kind of cuts across everything.
Right.
So this piece is made by artist Edward Hopper.
Right.
Um, a lot of folks are pretty familiar with Hopper. We've got that really wonderful painting of his at the Art Center, the automat with the woman with the hat and the
Yeah.
yep. And then he also did Nighthawks, which is that diner painting.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, his stuff's pretty recognizable, but I mean, I'm not good at telling you, looking at a piece of art and being able to tell you who did it to begin with, but I definitely wouldn't have guessed that.
right. And I think the thing is, it takes, I mean, probably take really studying him to be able to pick that up.
Hmm.
But with just like the things that we're commonly familiar with, so like if you know Automat, if you know Nighthawks, it has a similar feeling because he likes to put people in isolation or
Right.
isolating, and they're always a little sad or a little moody,
Yeah.
and he plays with light and shadow. And so I think, I mean, the major difference is, so this is an etching.
Right. Which I'm not
And
familiar with his work in that.
yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if I've seen other etchings by him. So it was really, just the medium alone is really going to change what it looks like. And I'm like, and the piece is also called Night Shadows.
Hmm.
And I'm looking at like the shadow side of these buildings and how like intense they are.
Yeah. It is dark and moody, which I like.
Yeah. Does it feel safe to you, or does it feel,
Yeah, it does actually. I don't know why per se, but I think going back to that initial feeling of just feeling alone on a street in a way that there isn't really anybody around, so there's nothing to really feel unsafe in my
yeah.
the way I'm looking at it at least.
Yeah, no, I feel that too. And I think that's interesting because there are these like really deep shadows and we can't know what's hiding in shadows.
Hmm.
However, like this piece feels safe. It feels like, this is somewhere this person's familiar being
Right.
and they kind of know what they're doing. And we're just assuming that by this perspective, I think.
Yeah. And that confidence of walking in the middle of the street.
Yeah. Like, I live here. Thank you.
Kind of a
Cool.
big deal.
All right. So let's check out something else.
Cool.
So
Definitely more
this,
abstract.
what was that?
I said definitely a little more abstract.
Oh, yeah. Um, this piece, just to give some context, is really large. The
Okay.
It's an acrylic painting, and it is 6 foot by 6 foot by 5 foot.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Human size.
Yes. Thoughts on this piece?
um right away I sort of see like wings in some of the
Cool.
patterns, like especially that light blue on the right side, And then
Yeah.
it also, I'm like above that, like a little bit darker blue, but still in that medium range, almost like a person bowing.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. And then I don't know, it sort of in the middle sort of feels like crumpled sheets of a bed.
I see so much like fabric folds.
Mm-hmm.
Like to just think that this is like some beautiful like tie-dye fabric that's like being like tossed in the wind.
Yeah.
And the layers are, I mean, I just think this piece is like really beautiful. And I wonder what about it is beautiful to me. Um, I'm sure the colors are a big part of it.
Yeah, I love how they blend together. I'm a big fan of blue, so that always helps. But
It's like it's a color of choice.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
love I also love just kind of I get a feeling for like birds. I think it's that wings that I see, but there's obviously no distinct figures, and I kind of like how that's playing out. Like
yeah,
like a Rorschach test or however you say
yeah. No,
that.
it is fun to play with abstract pieces that have like more forms in them. So this one does have like somewhat shapes,
Hmm.
and so we can see these things. And you know, when you're like you think about birds, I wonder if like this piece feels like birds.
Hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like fluttering the
Mhm.
way that the colors mix together and are folded and unfolding.
And there's nothing that's like solid. There's no like harsh line shape.
Hmm.
I think
Yeah,
that
that's
this
cool.
piece is like at the same time like very like energetic and also peaceful.
Yeah, I get that.
And like the like you know when you're talking about that bowing figure, I like notice like even below that there's like an even lighter, like almost like just a wash of that light blue.
Yeah.
And so it's like this like layering and like I don't know, it's like transforming into form. Yeah. And then I like to see these like right in the middle, like moving up towards the diagonal are those like it really is like a white, like two white lines.
Hmm.
But I think that they add so much more like depth to it.
Yeah, it kind of contrast breaks it up.
Yeah. I think it's
Yeah, I
really
didn't notice those right away, but I like that.
and I think the thing is too because they have like the blue over the top of them that you're like they're kind of like an invisible aspect of this piece. But when you like try to look through the different layers of colors and see like really like what is there, I'm realizing like how much the white spaces affect everything else.
Hmm. Yeah, it's I mean, I feel like you sort of take in the piece, and then once you start going into those little details, I start being like, how the hell did they do that? That's crazy.
Right. I know. I mean, and so it's acrylic paint, which is, you know,
Hmm.
it's not watercolor. So my guess is that they had to water it down in some ways. And like, just like that top left corner, like there really is so many different colors blending. And it's like,
Yeah,
is this a brush stroke going up? Is this a brush stroke going down? Is this poured from a cup?
yeah. And sometimes I feel like that as not an artist in that respect, it's kind of nice to just appreciate it for what it is and not have to think about all the hard work that went into it. But it is pretty amazing.
Yeah. And I think works like this, there is something special about them that like, you know, we could look at the hopper before this and really like it's hard to ignore that hard work because each line is very like understood by us as like, wow, like
Hmm.
he really went to town. And and then we look at this piece and when you see it like this is something that so many people interpret as easy because it feels like that because it feels very natural and like instant like ha and there's this painting
Right.
I think
Clearly.
that you go.
Oh, I was gonna say it's clearly not that simple. Like,
Right.
I am just now sort of paying attention to the bottom right-hand corner, and that's this sort of shading and contours, and it feels like a desert national monument, sort of a rock sculpture or
Oh
rock
yeah.
figure, which
Right. I mean,
feels kind of different from the rest of the piece. And like I said, I'm just now kind of getting my attention down there, but there's a lot of detail that's cool.
mm-hmm. Right. I mean, it's great how something can appear simple and lovely, and then like when we look through it, there's like so much detail and depth. And I mean, too, I don't know, like I've seen Bob Ross paint, and he can sometimes just with one brushstroke like paint a mountain.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's interesting, like sometimes the details that come out when someone just knows how to work with paint. It's yeah, I really also really love these like two very deep like purple lines that are like very thin coming down from
Hmm.
the top.
Yeah, I noticed those. They're almost like bugs' legs or antennas or something. Like,
Yeah, I was definitely thinking antenna, and then it's like okay, then it's like a butterfly.
yeah.
Um, it's like a bird, it's like a butterfly, it's like a mountain. It's nice that it really makes us think of natural forms as opposed to man-made things.
Hmm.
You know, this is not a coffee pot.
Definitely.
Cool. All right, so this artist, his name is Paul Jenkins, and he's an American artist. This piece was done in 1963, and the title is Phenomena After Tide.
Okay.
And you know, it kind of feels like that when I was saying like how it feels this like instantaneous, like, and then I think about like a phenomenon like Aurora Borealis or like, you
Hmm.
know, these things that just like, oh wow, that just happened.
Yeah, that's interesting. After tide, so like an ocean tide, I'm assuming.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to think about it. Because then it sort of, if you read into that, it sort of looks like a wave crashing up against a rock in a certain way.
Right. You're so
Yeah.
right. I mean, and we didn't think about that until the artist gave us the title for
Right.
context. But
Yeah.
also interesting that we didn't mention water in general because it's
Yeah.
very blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More focused on the sky, I guess. Head in the clouds.
Cool. Okay, one more piece. Are you having fun?
Yeah, I really like those two pieces. Thank
Awesome.
you for sharing.
Here's a fun one.
Yes. I love photography. I think it's always cool to see what people can capture. Um, that is really funny.
I know. I love that I feel like this piece is funny, but also it is dark and moody and funny and photography.
Yes.
What
What
do you
is her
think?
shirt? Is it a Star Wars shirt? No, it's like a unicorn. Is it a
It
horse
I
and a
think I can zoom in. It says I think it says may the horse be with you.
oh my
Yeah.
God. So it is a Star Wars shirt and
Yes.
a
Yeah.
horse all at once.
It's a very specialty item.
I love it. I love everything about it. I mean, it's aesthetically really beautiful on the back. Um,
Yeah.
and then in the forefront, it's just like such a modern, like real, normal person. Not to say that that's not beautiful either, but there's like a contrast between that. Oh, look at this aesthetic, uh, beautiful kind of dusk background, and then the everyday plain
Yeah.
Jane sort of jeans t-shirt. I like that
Yeah.
contrast a lot.
I mean, it's fun too because I think that that is a dynamic that photography has where it's like, is this like a high art piece? Is this a piece of photography that goes in a museum, or is this like a family snapshot?
Hmm.
And I think that this piece kind of like ties those two things together in a way.
Yeah, but I mean, it is really interesting how they're able to make it so kind of focused and lit, and then maintain that the background of the sky and the trees.
Right. I think it's funny because just like with abstract art, photography gets dismissed as easy a lot. And I think you're
Mhm.
recognizing, like, as somebody who's, taken pictures or tried to take pictures, like really how difficult this piece would be to create
Right.
with lighting.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Now I want to see a lot more of this photographer's work. I'm
So
curious.
that's, that's awesome because actually she has a series that's a lot of these.
Hmm.
So her name is Laurel Nakadate, and she lived and studied in Iowa. I think she is from Iowa, but we
Yeah.
had a series of hers at the Art Center a few years ago that was just an entire very like darkly lit room just filled with these photographs that were like illuminated in the gallery space,
Oh, that's cool.
and they were really cool. And I can't help but tell the story of this piece because her work is so cool. So the show was called Strangers and Relations,
Mhm.
and the people in her images she actually found on like 23andMe, like people that she turned out to be related to.
Oh, really? Wow.
And she sent emails to like hundreds of people and asked them, she said, like, I'm an artist, I'm a photographer, will you meet me in the darkest place that you can think of in the middle of the night and let me take your portrait? And so many people, I feel like it's like 200, but I'm not good with numbers and I don't remember, so I encourage people to look it up. But many people said, yeah, sure, like I'll just meet
Yeah,
you. And
because that
so
like sounds too sketchy for anybody who's actually doing anything sketchy to try to pull anything. So
that's a good
like,
point because I wonder why anyone would do it. And also I think about like the title of artist and like how meaningful that might be to people.
yeah,
um like, oh, it's an artist, like, and like just the fact that just the general public would support that, I thought it was really beautiful. um so she met these people, and the way these photos work, where this is the first time they've ever seen each other, somebody that she's related to.
wow, that's
And
really cool.
yeah, and she shines like a flashlight on them, and it's a long exposure. So the light that we're seeing in the background is light possibly like from a distant city.
Hmm.
um, and it's not necessarily like that color in the sky, it's just picking up all the light that it can find,
Sure.
and they're like in total darkness.
I love that. I think one of my favorite things about sort of portrait photography is just how much it can capture a person that you don't know. Because obviously, as a viewer, for the most part, most people aren't going to know this person unless they're a celebrity. So it's cool that that is kind of her experience as the artist too, is meeting a stranger. But you kind of start to imagine what their life's like just from one moment in time.
I love that, and you're right. I mean, it is like an introduction to a person,
Hmm.
just seeing, portrait photography. And it was great that she was able to like layer it with so much meaning, personal meaning, and then also like, we as the viewer get to think about what is our connection to all the people we interact with. What
Yeah.
does connection mean anyways? What does family mean? What does stranger mean? um,
Yeah. And the great thing about photography, I feel like we often are nervous when we meet somebody for the first time and, worried about our impression. And there's something very uh, safe about photography where you can actually stare at someone, and kind of like, and not in a bad way, but you can't really do that when you're actually meeting somebody. So,
I love that. I love like it's an invitation to do that,
hmm,
to
yeah,
like get to know somebody based on like your physical observations, because it's like a person really tells you so much about who they are, like how they dress, or it's like, I love this woman surrounded by her miniature ponies and in one donkey.
yeah,
Because it's like it's hard not to feel a fondness for this person.
yeah. That's it's really cool and
Cool.
fun.
Thanks. You really like connected a lot of things for me too. Like the fact that you and I are strangers, and like you were saying, like photography is a really great introduction for us to meet somebody. And I was thinking how really like talking to strangers about art to me feels so much easier than talking to strangers about anything else, because it is this like middle thing that we can
Yeah,
talk about big things without like talking about ourselves or talking about things that feel difficult or dangerous, the whole like, you know, religion and politics stuff.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel forced either. You kind of go with whatever you have in front of you and can build
Yeah,
off.
yeah. We're given a lot of like content to really like dig through.
Yeah.
Um, and also like I liked the connection thinking about when I picked these three pieces, like there was something that felt connective, you know, thinking about the things that you said you were interested in, but now like tying back to the first Hopper piece, like the man alone at night, and like now like we have this like female figure alone at night. Um, and I'm gonna get very philosophical, but it's just kind of like we're all like on our own paths, on our own journeys, and like we have these moments of sharing or experiencing life together.
Yeah.
And art like offers us like a way to see that through like an artist experience or through, you know, whoever the person is in the portrait. Um, just like these times when we can like get together. And now I'm thinking about like your business, like the idea of like how to go orders didn't feel the same because it's like about people connecting.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this has been great. And I love that connection, but also through, um, I don't know, feeling isolated. It's an interesting contrast, I guess.
Yeah, because yeah, we're, I mean, you know, you and I are meeting now via Zoom, and it's like this idea of like us having to face so much isolation, and like those of us who are like still compelled to like make change or, you know, connect community. Like we're finding those ways to remember like that the isolation isn't real in some ways, even though it's physical and felt.
Yeah,
Cool.
for sure. I There's always ways to make connections, but yeah.
Well, thank you. I thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And you know, I've been doing these, and usually I do them in the evening. And I just feel like this is like such an amazing way to start my day that my brain is really going after having looked at artwork and sharing it with somebody. So
Likewise. Thank you
cool.
very much. And I loved the pieces that you picked. So
Awesome.
thanks for sharing.
My pleasure. All right. Well, thank you so much, and
Thanks,
have a good
Mia.
one.
You too.
Thanks.
Take
Bye.
care.